This is my heater. I dare you to hit it.
He'll be sorry.
Boy, I'm bigger than that. Want the heater? I'll give it to you. Basketball, maybe they don't hit it.
A swing and a drive to deep right.
Clear the deck. Cannonball coming.
Left field. It is out of here.
What is up? Welcome back. There's people throwing out in Arizona and Florida. And kind of hyped about that. I don't know about everybody else. Maybe I'm louder than normal because of it. Flax, what's going on, man? We're here. Baseball is back.
It is baseball season. We're in it.
Hey, it was baseball season for me on Sunday night, too. And the day before that, and the day before that. Yeah, you're right. It's been baseball season for at least 2 weeks. Let's just start this off with the most fun possible thing that we can do. Flax, best pitchers and catchers reporting video that you have seen today.
Francisco Lindor.
Oh,
Nobody brought more aura to the moment. Also, I just love that no bag, like glove, cleats, couple of bats, no bag. Didn't need to bring a whole mess of stuff. His stuff is just there. Like it's Francisco Lindor, and he's just casually strolling in. And I was just like, that's it. It's been baseball season for him. It's always baseball season for him.
I absolutely love that. I'm gonna go to one that's just gonna make people mad at me. Got to see Ohtani throw on the mound today, and don't have to like the Dodgers to be excited about that. People just throwing it out there. My second one would be I could hear the glove pop from Crochet throwing, and the guy was filming from like a football field away, or so it felt like. Yeah, good pickup for the Red Sox there. I did
see that picture that the Dodgers posted of Ohtani, and I immediately had to do this double take, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a pitcher. Forgot about that.
Pitcher and DH, Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. All right, Flex. As always, what happened around baseball?
Yeah, got to get into it. This might be one of the last ones of these, so we gotta get through it. Ryan Brazier traded from the Dodgers to the Cubs. We saw that coming for a player to be named later. Clearly, Dodgers are just looking to get something out of a guy that they were going to DFA to clear room on the 40-man roster.
Under 3 ERA. Under 3 ERA, and the man got DFA'd.
Yeah, that's crazy. Randall Grichuk re-signs with the Diamondbacks for 1 year. Ramon Laureano signs with the Orioles on a 1-year deal. Just more outfield depth for them. Danny Coulombe and Harrison Bader both signed with the Twins this week. Danny Coulombe for 1 year, $3 million. Bader for 1 year, $6.25, with a $10 million option for 2026. People are still high on Bader. I think there's a lot left to be said for him. He's a really solid defensive outfielder. Just curious to see if he's going to round it out for a full season. I mean, people forget some of his heroics in the playoffs a couple of years ago. This is the same guy. So Ben Gamel re-signed with the Astros 1 year, $1.2 million. Tim Meza signed with the Pirates 1 year, $1.15 million. And Tim Hill, the Yankees finally got a lefty in the bullpen. Re-signed 1 year, $2.5 million with a club option for $3 million next year, or a $350,000 buyout. And then a minor league signing that I love, Trey Mancini signed a minor league deal with the D-backs with an invite to spring training. I love it because if a guy of his caliber who's been in the league this long, and there's other guys that I wrote about today, like Carson Fulmer and Jake Lamb, these guys don't need to be doing this, right? Like they don't need to sign a minor league deal. They just can't quit on the game that they love. And I love that for them. So good opportunity. Too. It's a good flyer for the D-backs.
Hey man, it's Mancini too. We know as an Orioles fan, you've got some love there. Listen, Crawford boxes should have been better to him when he had that opportunity. It was a little disappointing, but the D-backs, man, they're going to get something out of this. If he makes the roster, I won't be surprised.
I like the move because if he does make the roster, you could potentially platoon him with Josh Naylor at first base and kind of bridges the gap before Ivan Melendez is ready from the minor leagues. that's kind of their next guy who's going to play first base for them. And so this kind of bridges that gap. I don't think it's a bad flyer for them.
Shout out to Troy Tulowitzki. All right. Now that we've hammered that shout out home, because we had to every time we talk about a former Texas player, we're going to rock and roll to something that we wanted to get finished last week, but we had a lot of fun and there was some commentary. So let's finish off what we were getting done last week here. Couple more questions that we had for each other. So we're down to 2 apiece here. I'll go first this week since you got to go first last week. Junior Caminero. All the rage this offseason. Like, all the rage. If you haven't heard his name this offseason, not sure what rock you've been living under. So tell me right now, Mr. Flax, are we buying the hype on Junior Caminero?
Oh, how could you not? We're absolutely buying the hype on Junior Caminero. What he did in the Dominican League and the energy that he brought is the energy he's going to continue bringing. How could you not be in on a guy like that? He's bringing his own hype, and he's deserving of it. He's only grown through his trials of professional baseball, and I think it's just going to continue getting even better. It really doesn't go much further than that for me. If a guy's going to bring that level of energy, he's always worthwhile to have in the clubhouse.
Yeah, and people forget that the Guardians gave him away for a bunch of wooden nickels. It's what a find for the Rays. They have helped develop this kid to a level that most people obviously didn't see coming. You bring up the Dominican Winter League, just electric. The home runs that he hit, again, the numbers were excellent in that league as well. I mean, he hit like over 400 with multitude of home runs, but the emotion that he showed after they won, his team won the league, tells you everything you need to know about what that man thinks of baseball and how he feels about it. I'm super excited to get to watch him take over a star role on the Rays that was cut for reasons outside of Rays fans' control. You guys deserve Junior for many reasons, and that might be one of the biggest because this kid's coming, and he's coming hot.
Well, and I love the fact that he fits within that ball club too, right? You look at the way that they carry themselves, the energy that they bring, they fit in Florida more than anything, more than anyone or any team. And him bringing that energy to the table, it's similar to what like a Jose Siri brought, which he's not there anymore, but I think he kind of fills that gap as far as
spark plug,
kind of being that. Exactly, that's the perfect way to describe it. Being the spark plug within that clubhouse, absolutely.
And let's not forget something that we'll touch on maybe in a little bit. He's not playing at Tropicana, so that's part of the discussion to be had. But we'll leave that for later.
All right, I'll take the next one. This is a question that I think is near and dear to your heart and fits well within the range of how you think about baseball anyways. When you look around the league, you see organizations like the Pirates and the Marlins, and obviously, Peter Bendix just got there. He's starting his thing. But when you look at organizations like this that have pieces, but haven't necessarily done anything with them yet, what do you think about if you put your GM hat on? How would you approach an offseason like they were in this year, where you saw both of them not make any sort of major move, but you know that they have pieces to build around? Where are you taking that team? Give me the next couple of off seasons and potentially even like middle of this year trade deadline.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you have to look at when you are looking at a roster of what I would consider league minimum players. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say that from a standpoint of when you're looking at roster competition or composition of teams that are not necessarily competing, but working their way through their own pipeline, you've got to start with the first thing. One, both teams have kind of already done this, which is, at least the Marlins have, which is clear house on anybody who you've evaluated already. Clear house on guys who are not going to be part of the major future of the franchise, and be willing to almost not spend money. I understand how upset Marlins fans have been using them as the example. They haven't really done much this offseason, but when Bendix said he's going to open the checkbook, I don't believe he was ever really talking about this year. They're in a spot, again, using the Marlins as our example here, where they have a ton of talent that they need to evaluate at the major league level, because the next step for a team like the Marlins is to figure out what your core actually is. Right. You need to figure out what your core is at the major league level. My example would be right now is you've seen what Xavier Edwards did last year. I think they're looking at him as a major future part of this roster. Then you've got other players who are like Jesus Sanchez, where you're looking at a Jesus Sanchez and saying, hey, is the key going to turn with this guy? We've been sitting here in third gear with him for 2 or 3 years. Are we going to find fourth and fifth gear for a player who has these types of analytical StatCast numbers? And can we turn that into production on the field? Then you're evaluating guys like Conine? Is it Griffin? Is it
yep.
Griffin? Griffin Conine?
Conine, yep.
Right? You've got the Griffin Conines of the world. You've got the Matt Mervises of the world who you brought in, who are extremely talented players who haven't got there yet. So again, where I'm going with this is simple. Right now, a team like the Marlins is in this evaluation stage of learning what their core is. You really do need to have a core of 3 to 4 guys offensively, 2, maybe 3 starters. The bullpen is the one spot where you don't necessarily have to have a quote-unquote core within your bullpen because you can build that. When you look at the Marlins and I talk about cores of starters, Yuri Perez, Alcantara, who, by the way, Marlins fans, Alcantara is healthy. We just said something about the deadline. Don't be surprised if he's moved further along in his contract than everybody else. You've got to look at the value and the timing of these cores. So, rounding that portion of this discussion out, it's very simple. A team like the Marlins is in a evaluation stage, and the only thing Bendix is trying to do this year is properly evaluate his core and his upper minor league talent, because those two things are what's going to build your long-term foundation to success. Now,
I like that.
Yeah, looking forward to off seasons, I would tell you that if they like the core that they have, you start to see them spending money next year. Right? It's not going to be on these crazy big-time players. One, that doesn't fit the scheme of the Marlins. But 2, you still can't commit contracts too far out. I expect them to make more moves, especially going into the deadline with some of the players they have, to continue to build up the pipeline and move from there. So, all in all, I look at it very simply. You got to build your core. You've got to evaluate your core, and you have to do it right. You see teams stall out because they do not evaluate their course correctly. I'm going to give you the best possible example I can on that, Flax. Some people might not like this, but the answer to that truly is the Cardinals expected to be competing this year. They expected to be competing last year. Unfortunately, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, the guys who were evaluated out to be this next core set of players, didn't pan out the way they wanted to. It doesn't make the team bad or poor at evaluating, but you're not going to get it right every time. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that what's fascinating about the Marlins is how much of their core right now is former college guys, which what that means to me is just age plays a factor. Age exists in that conversation, less so than some of the other young cores that you've seen grow across the league, like the Orioles, where you have a bunch of high school guys that are now finally hitting their stride and getting to an age where they're in the game. And I think that's not a bad thing. It's not a knock on the Marlins, but between Conine, Mervis, Jonah Bride, Connor Norby, that's a bulk of your lineup potentially that is going to be at an age in the next 3 or 4 years where they're either going to get a big contract or they're not going to be in baseball.
100%.
And that's just the way it is.
You bring up a really good point about the focus on college players, and you're going to see a lot of teams that, especially at the top of the draft, will do this. And let's make this super simple for everybody who's not aware of it. There is a tier list for probability and percentages of making the major leagues depending on how you're drafted. It goes college pitchers, college position players, high school position players, high school pitchers. 1, 2, 3, 4. In that order of who is most likely to pan out on a regular basis. Okay? So with that being known, a team like the Marlins, who is in a heavy rebuild, especially with the continuing increased level of which college baseball is, because that is on an exponential growth curve that many people do not realize. wait for the money that is going to be poured into college baseball to continue to reinforce that as well. Guys will go because they will get paid during that period of time.
Well, the MLB's pushing it.
You know they are. And I think it's a good thing for the sport. The other thing it's a good thing for, whether people like it or not, is it's a good thing for every single kid who is coming out of high school making a decision. Because it's giving you it's so many more opportunities. We could go on a whole tangent about that. I think it's a good discussion for us to have. But all in all, Marlins are in evaluation period. I think that's a really good example of this question. I would really love to see where their core falls by next year. Expect Edwards, Norby, Conine, Sanchez. You're going to see a lot of decisions made by this group. And I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say if Alcantara looks like himself, he's probably not on the roster in 2026.
I think that's probably a good bet.
All right. Question number 2 for you. We've had a ton of fun all offseason, mainly me just picking on you about the Orioles moving in the wall. That's not the biggest ballpark change that we're fighting here in 2025, ironically, though. And that's because there's 2 teams in the A's and the Rays who are going to play in minor league ballparks for 82 games this year. How is that going to affect baseball?
We get 2 Yankee stadiums.
We really do.
So now we get 2 fake ballparks. No, I'm just kidding. But I think honestly, the A's situation is such a wild one to me for 2 reasons. One, they're going to have a nicer clubhouse than they had in Oakland Coliseum. Like they were playing in a ballpark that was falling apart. There's no way around that. Not to say that Tropicana was that much nicer, but like it was at least newer. So they're now going to be at a ballpark that's been around 25 years. They held a AAA All-Star game, I think, in 2015. The dimensions are not that different around the outfield, but there is next to no space in comparison in foul territory. So that'll be interesting for a lot of players that have been in the Coliseum for 3 or 4 years to maybe get used to. But it's a very straightforward ballpark. The thing you're going to notice about both of these ballparks, and you noticed it during the COVID years when the Blue Jays had to play in Florida because of going over the border during COVID times and being allowed to and all that nonsense and tests, the ball flies because you don't have a second and third deck that's not letting the wind or letting the airflow affect the baseball. The stadium is going to create a draft through that singular stadium behind home plate that's going to push the ball out of the ballpark. You'll see some elevated numbers in both stadiums. And then on the flip side, for the Rays, playing in another version of Yankee Stadium, because that's what Steinbrenner Field is, the right field will be shorter than Tropicana, but mostly it's a very similar dimension ballpark. I think we pick on Yankee Stadium for the way that it plays and the way that it looks. It's really not that much smaller in a lot of spaces than a lot of ballparks when we're really talking about it. The fences are low. There are balls that get out to right field that shouldn't, but for the most part, like there was a point where Arlington ballpark where the Rangers used to play to right field, if a guy hit a deep fly ball, it was like a third deck shot. Like that wasn't that deep of a ballpark either. Sometimes it's just the way these ballparks are set up that they look that way. What I'm most interested about with the A's is they are still sharing that ballpark with a AAA baseball team.
I did not know that.
So either life is going to get a whole lot better for, what's the team's name? I was looking at it before. The River Cats, the Sacramento River Cats. They are the AAA team for the Giants. Life is either going to get a whole lot better for River Cats players because they're going to get the remnants of whatever the professional team gets, or the professional team is going to get managed and handled by the AAA staff that works at the stadium, in which case they are going to get a worse deal for 81 games in comparison to every other professional team. On the flip side, with the Rays, I'm very curious if they're going to put up their own decals. And it sounds crazy, but like...
Oh, I didn't think about that.
In the dugout, is it still going to say like Yankees.com on the railing or whatever it says at Steinbrenner Field? Like, is it still going to have Yankees emblems everywhere in the locker room?
Oh, Rays fans would love that.
Are the Rays going to get in there and kind of make it their own and take it and make it a home. This is supposed to be a 1-year gig. It's not supposed to be a long-term thing. So like the A's are going to be where they're at the minimum till 2027. They're there for 3 seasons. But the Rays are supposed to only be there this season. They're supposed to be ready, or at least have Tropicana Field ready by opening day in 2026. I don't really see that happening considering the disputes that exist unless they sell the team tomorrow, which could happen. But I don't know. I'm very curious what it's going to be like for Rays players with Yankee stuff all over the place.
Well, if that happens, then you're going to hear "This House Is Not a Home" by Carrie Underwood playing very heavily in that dugout on a regular basis. Thanks.
I love those intangibles because I feel like as a player, it's something you'd get used to, but if you're not playing well, it's like in Moneyball when David Justice says like, "Hey, why do we pay for the soda here?" They want to keep the money on the field. It's that type of aspect where like if you're not building the culture around the players that make them feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, they're just a bunch of individuals going out there trying to make the best for themselves so that they can get paid at the end of next year. And that's not really how you win ball games. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out, but that's what I've got on the 2 ballparks. It's a wild scenario, and I'm all for an A's Rays ALDS just because I really want to see the MLB have to do something. Next question for you. I had a different one, but I changed it because I was having this conversation on Twitter Spaces the other night, and I thought it was a really good conversation. The way that qualifying offers work in baseball right now, is it a problem? And I asked the question because you have situations where the Orioles extend a qualifying offer to Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns is going to get signed. No one's going to be afraid to sign him because of the penalty. The Orioles are also doing it knowing he's never going to take it, so they are basically doing it to guarantee themselves a draft pick on the back end. Is there a problem with the fact that most of the best teams have an opportunity to do that rather than give guys who deserve them qualifying offers or tag guys with qualifying offers that they know they want to re-sign at a cheaper price so that nobody else can touch them?
No, I think the qualifying offer system is a good balancing and collective bargaining act. Yes, a lot of the good teams are able to stack this and make it really work for them. However, every team in baseball has the opportunity to do this. And this is something that you have to think about from a standpoint of let's do it. Let's flip back to the Marlins. Okay? The Marlins, though they have traded guys in the past, right after they win, as you have so told me and many people on Twitter, they have made the playoffs 4 times. They have won 2 World Series, and they have broken it down every single time after a playoff run. That's via trade. However, let's just stop and say that the Marlins held Miguel Cabrera through the entirety of that contract. The Marlins give up Miguel Cabrera in free agency and get absolutely nothing for Miguel Cabrera without a qualifying offer system in this scenario. The qualifying offer system, in my opinion, is more so built to help the teams that will not be able to retain the talent. Within that statement, I cannot help those teams develop talent. I can't. They still have to do it.
Right.
Okay. Your next good example would be the Toronto Blue Jays. They struggle to sign anybody. They also struggle to re-sign their own people on a regular basis. Canada is not an easy market to work with. So let's talk about another team where qualifying offer is a big help for them. When Bo Bichette leaves this offseason and they decide not to trade him, they will get a pick for Bo Bichette because they will give him some type of qualifying offer, and he will most likely, because they're going to go after Vladdy, sign with somebody else, giving them a compensation pick for extremely good talent that they were not able to retain. So I think the scarier part about qualifying offers would be what we saw with a guy like Bueller, which is the opposite half of the qualifying offer, which is the willingness to give somebody the qualifying offer number, even if they weren't given a qualifying offer, right? This is the balance of this. You still have to be willing to say, I am going to give you a 1-year, $21.5 million contract. You still have to be willing to do that. So it's a gamble no matter what you do, but it's meant for competitive balancing, and I think it's okay right now. I don't think it's an issue.
Well, look at Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta still hasn't been signed because he comes with a penalty.
100%. That might not be good for Pivetta, but the question is qualifying offer bad for baseball? And the reality is the qualifying offer wasn't made for the players; it was made for the teams. And I'm generally on the players' side, but at the basis of the qualifying offer was to make sure where if you lose highly talented players, you get something back. Yeah. And if Pivetta goes back to the Red Sox for 1 year after what they did this offseason and gets $21.5 million, he ain't gonna care.
No, it's true. More than likely when he does end up signing, it'll be for somewhere around that number. It's fascinating that he didn't take it. I guess it was a misjudgment.
I thought he would take it too, personally. But again, it's also a risk you take with your agent. There is risk on both.
I don't know if anybody took a qualifying offer this year.
Nobody did this year. No.
And I guess that's my only struggle with it, is that if no one is taking them, then is the number set correctly? And I know the number is set because it's an average of, what is it? It's like an average of the top 5 salaries in baseball or something like that.
I have to take a look. I don't know off the top of my head. That's honest.
But when you look at it that way and you say X amount of qualifying offers were extended this year, not a single one was taken, and it's like, okay, well then why are we calling them qualifying offers? Why not just give people draft picks for, having free agents that are just say when this guy signs somewhere for over X amount of dollars, you get a draft pick. You don't actually have to extend him anything to put a tag on him and then make it hard for him to go get signed. To me, it feels like there should be a two-way street here of who this is meant for or helping or whatever, however you want to look at it.
So Major League Baseball, the qualifying offer is set by the average of the top 125 highest players in baseball. And again, I believe this year's...
I was close.
You were very close.
125. It's the same.
Almost the same number. Either way.
Yeah, sure.
Top 5 average, we'd be sitting at 38 million or something like that for qualifying offers. Leaving that alone.
Okay. To be fair, though,
no,
the number's not that far off.
No, but
are we counting deferred dollars, or I'm just kidding?
21.5 million is what it was this year. And again, I get that nobody's really taking them lately, and they might not be advantageous to the player because they're a 1-year deal. At the end of the day, though, this is a risk-based industry to begin with. And these players are sitting down with their agents and saying, this is how I feel about this. And I don't blame Pivetta for not taking the deal, because the reality is, right, as he's a good example, a 3-year contract for even potentially significantly less money is better for him in the long run at his age and his situation, right?
Definitely.
So to round this all up in a bow, I don't think there's a problem with qualifying offers. However, if I was the MLB Players Union in the next CBA discussion, I would try to do something to better leverage it for players. It is doing what it's supposed to do for teams. I don't think there's any discussion about that. Lose a high-end player, get a draft pick for that. You've been compensated. 1-year deals for players doesn't make a ton of sense, which is why you don't see a lot of them accepted, which forces them to test the market and potentially see less money in the following season.
I think that's probably where I was going, was just that I think and it won't shock me when the MLBPA starts putting together that conversation, the fact that this is not the first year that we've seen qualifying offers go out and none of them get taken.
Yeah, I even think something like a 2-year deal with an opt-out after the first one, give people something more than a 1-year deal. Yeah. It's the length of these deals that is the problem, not the money.
That's what I was going to say. And you can see baseball and Mike Trout and Bryce Harper in the new age realm of not super young free agents started moving this path of I'm looking for long-term. I'm looking for long-term cash. Right? People have, not always, but people have signed those, I'm 1-2 years in the league, bypass arbitration type of deal. But the guys looking for out of free agency when they're 26, 27 now for 10-year deals is becoming more of a reality, and something has to be done to offset that for the guys that are not in that position but still receiving qualifying offers. So
guaranteed money is always going to talk. Length of time is always going to talk. It's where we're at as a society too in general, right? It's stability. Also, players and agents are just smarter. That's just my opinion. They know that injuries happen. We live in a connected world, people. We're not reading the newspaper every morning to find out what the box score looked like, right? These players aren't doing anything different. They see the issues with the Tommy John surgeries and the shoulder injuries. The guys who are swinging the bat sees what happens when you tear your ACL for the second time and the likelihood of you coming back. So part of a wider discussion. I like where we went with that, though, because qualifying offers are an overall interesting topic as we move towards the next CBA. All right. So as of recording, it's opening day baseball, people. Oh, wait. It's opening day college baseball. So we gotta
opening day Division I college baseball.
You're right, Division I. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to offend the Division III superstar that is on this podcast. That's on me. It's opening day Division I baseball
has already started, and it's a blast.
See, I need to be turning on more Division III baseball. That's all I'm going to say. Let's do something here real quick. This podcast is not centered around college baseball. You will, however, hear a little bit about college baseball here and there for sure, especially if the right things come up. I'm sure we'll get some Denison updates as we move through the season here, and I'm hoping to hear more about that. But let's drop in real quick here. For all you MLB fans, for all you Nationals fans, as we sit there with the number 1 pick in the draft this year, let's talk about some college baseball players and some prep baseball players to watch as the 2025 season progresses, and guys whose names you're going to probably hear get called at some point in time during the 2025 MLB draft. Let's get right into it with Evan's top 5 college baseball players to keep an eye on this baseball season.
Yeah, and the guy I'm going to start with is not on my list, but I'm glad you said Denison baseball because now I have my opening to talk about it real quick.
Let's go.
Eric Colasso, National Player of the Year from Denison last year, was one of the few non-Division I players named to the preseason Golden Spikes watch list last week. Big deal. Definitely the only time it's happened in Denison baseball history, and they were preseason ranked number 5 in the country before they start here in about a week and a half. So
let's go, baby.
Now, into Division I college baseball, the Major League Baseball prospects. And this is in no specific order. This is just as I was thinking through it and putting information on the page, these were the names that came to mind. First one, Tyler Bremner out of UCSB. If you don't know who he is, get to know who he is. UC Santa Barbara has like this crazy ability to just pump out arms, and people don't even realize it, but it happens. Last year, he had a .880 whip in 9 starts, 19 appearances. He went 11-1 with a 2.54 ERA.
Yeah, that's
a
right-handed
right-handed pitcher. Yeah. I mean, the dude can pitch. Not just throw, but like he can pitch the baseball, which is so fun. And I love that for the college guys when they're coming out and getting drafted. Expect to see him go high, especially if he has a good year this year. Number 2 on the list, Murph Gray. Infielder from Fresno State. Shout out Aaron Judge. For my OGs out there, shout out Steve Detweiler, 2008 national champions. Mr. Gray was the 2023 Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year. I'm seeing a lot of our boys on Twitter talking about Mountain West baseball. Had to throw something in there for them. His 2024 had 18 doubles, 10 home runs, and a 296 average. And he is absolutely on the board of names that folks are looking at to have a big, big junior year and potentially get drafted. Number 3, Cam Canarella. This guy stepped onto the field at Clemson, started in center field as a freshman, and had never played outfield in his entire life before getting there, which is one of the craziest things in the world considering the catch he made last year as a sophomore.
I was about to ask if that was the catch.
Yes, this is him. Against Florida in the Super Regionals, He is a dog. Not to mention he can hit the crap out of the ball. 337, 11 bombs, 16 doubles in 58 games last season. Look out for Clemson, as always, with those cream-colored pants and those purple jerseys. They're going to be exciting this year. Cam Canarella. Fourth on the list, Caden Bodine, catcher out of Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina has always been like a pretty solid program. Not even like them winning a national championship. And now it's probably like 8.5 years ago, which is crazy to say. But they're really, really growing their depth as far as the guys they're bringing in, and I think the transfer portal is helping with that. But Caden Bodine came here right as a freshman, and if you want to have a good laugh, go look at the laundry list of accolades that are on his bio, even before he got to college as a catcher. But he is what I would call a generational talent behind the plate. His defensive ability, 11 of 16 caught stolen bases, a 997 fielding percentage last year. That's one error, if anybody was curious. That's what 997 basically equates to as a catcher. I want to say he had something like 36 assists. So not only 11 of 16 caught stolen bases, I'm almost sure that this man is happy to backpick anybody who wants to move off of a base. Not to mention he also hit 328, 20 doubles, 9 bombs in 2024. He will be the meat of their order, Caden Bodine, Coastal Carolina. And then last but very not least, the premier power hitter in college baseball and of the SEC, Jace Laviolette. Probably the top guy on the board as far as college baseball goes. Last year, he put out 29 bombs in the SEC. 297 average, 16 doubles, 25 stolen bases. Guys putting balls out like that is almost getting us back to like Brent Rooker, even in the BB Core days, being one of the few guys in SEC baseball history to win a Triple Crown. If you didn't know about that, go look it up. It's pretty sick. He was like an unreal hitter at Mississippi State. But Jace Laviolette has one of the sweetest left-handed swings you've ever seen in college baseball. You could get lost watching videos of him on YouTube. So those are my top 5. I'm pumped for college baseball this season. Ryan, you know how much I love it.
I know.
I'm a big Tennessee fan. My brother played there for a year. Playing D3 baseball, growing up around like University of Maryland baseball, which until they got to the Big Ten, definitely had a lot of years where they struggled. I really latched on to Tennessee baseball, but now I'm just a college baseball fan. I just love it all.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I'm excited to delve deeper into the world of college baseball with you this year. It's for anybody who has not stopped to watch college baseball in the recent 5 to 10 years, and I feel like that's not a stretch of a statement to say, worth your time. I've started to learn that over the last couple of seasons, paying a lot more attention to it. The level of baseball that is played especially at the D1 level, and it's continuing to be increased at the D2, D3, NAIA level. I mean, baseball is the best way to put it at a young age.
And this is why you see the MLB putting more money into it, right? I mean, it's growing at such a rapid rate, and the quality of it is growing at such a rapid rate. The MLB is saying, everybody go join that. Because A, they're cutting down the number of roster spots across the minor leagues, or they did a couple of years ago. But also, it's a place where the game is actually growing. It means that the guys who go from college to the major leagues have a much shorter pipeline. And so you get to know these players who end up becoming the face of the league at such a younger age. And you get to see them in an element of like true team baseball. Not that the major leagues isn't, but like true team baseball before they get to that spot. It's so fun. It's the best.
Great for evaluation too. There's so many benefits to college baseball being propped up like this. Now, great segue into my top 5 prep baseball players to watch. And that's the fact that, trust me, drafting people out of high school is not going anywhere. It's just not. If you're good enough at the age of 18, not only can you go to war, but you can go play professional baseball in this country. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So
can't drink a beer.
That's a whole nother thing. They'd also disagree when they send you overseas. Either way, enough about that.
That's true.
I got some names for you here. And there's a couple that you should definitely know. There's one that every single one of you probably already knows. But let's dive into this. And no, I'm not going to start with Ethan Holiday because I think I'd be doing a disservice to the guy I want to talk about. And that's maybe the best high school arm that I've literally ever seen in my entire life. You want to talk about somebody who could get lost in watching highlights of them? Go watch Seth Hernandez, right-handed pitcher out of Corona High School, California, currently committed to Vanderbilt. 6'4" righty. He's currently sitting in the mid to upper 90s, touches 100. This kid is a stud. He has feel for all 4 of his pitches in high school. Talking about a fastball, a changeup, a 12-6 spike curve, and a harder slider. And again, he has feel and control for all of these pitches. It's hard for me to explain how good Hernandez is. He's already considered to have not only a plus fastball, but a plus changeup. And his 12-6 spike curve does at times touch 3,000 RPMs. The slider is new to his repertoire of last season. This kid is a monster. What's going to hold Seth Hernandez back? Actually, it's just the perception of high school arms. We've already had a discussion about this at the beginning of this conversation today. And that's that high school arms pan out the least to the major league level when getting drafted. I don't think that's going to stop Seth Hernandez. We're going to watch Jackson Jobe have a breakout season here in 2025, where I'd put my money on it. Hernandez is that type of player. Jobe looked great out of high school. Hernandez is elite. So if you hadn't heard of Seth Hernandez before this, please go watch some video on Seth Hernandez. The guy is a dog. So smooth. Flax. I can't wait for you to get to watch some video of him.
Smart guy too.
Very smart. Dude, they talk about his work ethic all the time too. Every article I've ever read about him, I am very excited to see what the future holds for one Seth Hernandez. All right, let's get the name that everybody knows out of the way here real fast, and that would be one Ethan Holiday, Stillwater High School in Oklahoma, currently committed to a very good college program in Oklahoma State. Ethan Holiday kind of resembles his dad, Matt Holiday, but from the left side.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, man, 6'4" frame, pure swinging lefty. He may have the best power potential in the entirety of this draft. That includes Lavalette. I mean, you're looking at a guy who's got 30-plus home run pop, and it's apparent at the ripe age of 17, not even 18. But there's not a ton to say about Holiday, because if you've got to see him swing the bat, got to see the videos of him, his dad, and his brother working out, something else there. Biggest thing on Holiday is he's probably a third baseman, not a shortstop at the next level. As he gets bigger, as he matures from an overall standpoint, just like a lot of different guys, may lose a little bit of speed here and there, maybe a little bit of range at short, but has the ability to be a high-level defender at third base in the future. So very excited to see what we see out of Holiday.
They've all got those giant forearms.
Yeah, I mean,
which like it's a theme amongst like really good hitters.
Shout out Jay Gibbons.
Shout out Jay Gibbons, friend of the podcast. The size of Ethan Holiday's forearms, Jackson Holiday's forearms, and obviously Matt Holiday's forearms. The only thing that they have that their dad doesn't have is great hair. But do
you think Matt's upset about that?
Time will tell. I don't think that guy's ever upset about anything in life. Look what he's got going for him.
I would have to agree. All right, let's move to number 3 here. Eli Willits, shortstop out of Fort Combe Broxton High School in Oklahoma, currently committed to Oklahoma. Was really impressed when I got to sit down and watch this kid play. 6'1" shortstop. He's potentially one of, if not the best all-around athlete in this class. Possesses the potential to have all 5 tools. He does something that is near and dear to Evan Flax's heart, and that would be switch hitting. He has feel from both sides of the plate, potential 15-plus home run pop as he develops. A guy, again, who is going to stick at shortstop at the next level, and if they really had to, he could probably play some elite center field because of what his glove possesses. Really excited to see what Willits can do at the next level. Again, a good reminder here. Every single person we're going to talk about is committed to a very highly ranked D1 school. You never know if we're going to see any of these guys get drafted, but we do want you to pay attention to them if you have time as the season progresses.
I saw a video of Willits literally today on Twitter from, I think it was Baseball America, saying like he's a plus glove at shortstop. And I was watching it. It was just like the transfer from glove to hand to throw was mind-boggling fast.
I think this is a really good, quick topic for us to touch. Being able to play up the middle is arguably the hardest thing to do at the highest levels in baseball. So when I say he could be a lead center fielder, that's not a knock on him. I want everybody to think of a guy like Tommy Edman and understanding what that brings to your ball club. That's a guy who could play up the middle of the field across the board.
I can't believe you just used Tommy Edman and not your boy Trey Turner.
You know, I used Edman because Edman is the more well-known utility guy who moves around and plays both. Yes, Trey Turner did play some nice center field for Washington back in the day. However, Turner's not leaving shortstop.
People forget, like, a guy like Adam Jones was drafted as a shortstop.
The entire San Diego Padres roster was drafted as a shortstop.
Yeah.
Got him.
That's an even better example.
Love it. So
okay, you win.
let's move to number 4. This man has not only is he 6'8", left-handed and throws 97, he's probably guaranteed a major league spot with his name. Just throwing it out there. Cruz Schoolcraft out of Sunset High School in Oregon, currently committed to Tennessee. 6'8", left-hander who's touching 97 on the gun. Fastball, slider, changeup, not a max effort thrower. The guy's also looked at as a very good defender at first base with some really, really nice potential with the hit tool. Again, the bat is currently considered behind other portions of his game, but let's talk about it. We'll throw it out there. Plays a little bit of first base and can swing the bat. I think this guy's making the league because of his name, not just because of his talent. But, this guy's got some really, really intriguing stuff behind him. A 6'8" lefty throwing 97 with ease at the high school level is not consistently seen. Very excited to see what Cruz Schoolcraft has in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know who plays in that division or conference against him in Oregon, but I'm sorry. Congratulations and condolences, I guess is what we should say, right? Like, you get your opportunity, but that sucks.
There's a high likelihood you get to say, I played against Cruz Schoolcraft. That's probably what your destiny is.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've both been there.
Schoolcraft, hop on the bus, baby.
I love it. Yeah, come find us,
program.
Man. I got to get him on the pod. I love that. All right, and my last one here, as we've had a lot of fun with this, this one had to be stated because as a Washington Nationals fan, Dimitri Young is near and dear to my heart in every way, shape, or form. And that's Quentin Young, third baseman, outfielder, and can play shortstop out of Oaks Christian High School in California, currently committed to LSU. He is the nephew of one Dimitri Young and Delman Young. You want to talk about having some genes? We love that. And did he get the genes? Yes, he did. 6'5". The dude's got the size. He's another person in this draft with potential 30-plus home run power in his future. Arguably some of the best raw tools in the draft. Another guy who comes with high marks on his overall work ethic. His biggest concern is something that we talked about with Connor Griffin last year, which is the actual contact skill on a regular basis. However, people around him say this kid works so hard that there's no way that's going to be a problem. And committed to LSU, great genes, great bloodline. Quentin Young, you're a dog. Let's see what you got here this year.
I'm going to preface this by apologizing to my mother that I know is going to be listening to this episode. What did we do in a past life to go into high school at 5 feet tall? I worked hard. I didn't. Golly, the size that these guys have just right out of the gate is crazy. But the innate skill that they have is untouchable. But yeah, it's crazy. Delman Young, Orioles hero. If the Orioles ever go on like a 2-3 game slide, just check Orioles Twitter and you will see an enormous amount of videos of the Delman Young double in the 2014 ALDS against the Tigers.
I need I need Quentin Young to have just as cool of a nickname as his uncle Dimitri Young, which is, for any of you who don't know, Dimitri Young's nickname was the Meat Hook, and it was great. It was awesome. Dimitri Young, love you, man. You brought a lot of great childhood memories, no different than Delman Young did for Flax over here. So, rooting for these guys. I know. Rooting for these guys. When we talk about the prep players, too, let's all remember we're talking about 17, 18-year-old young men who are working their ass off in life and trying to become big league ball players, really good college ball players as well. A lot of life ahead of these guys. So, continuing to be supportive. We want to see what the college and high school baseball season have to offer. And we want to put some names in your ear because, yeah, you're going to start paying attention to it for your team here sooner than later. It's always how it goes. We find ourselves in May and we start talking about the draft.
And Ryan's going to be all over it because Ryan wants to see who the Nationals are going to take first overall.
I literally do not
Ethan
believe.
Holiday, you are a National.
I'm going to say something that's going to hurt people. I do not believe in taking high school pitchers one. If we said Seth Hernandez right now, I'd be okay with it. I'm going to be honest.
Listen, I've seen the pain as an Orioles fan with Dylan Bundy.
I know.
We've seen it time and time and time again, but you've also seen it pan out. Like, it does happen.
Yeah.
You've also seen college guys that have done nothing. Literally, I talked about a guy in my article today who's still kicking at 31, and you would have thought when he was in college he was going to be the next amazing arm in the big leagues, Carson Fulmer.
Yeah.
When he was at Vanderbilt, he was untouchable. But he was like the start of guys throwing like 98 in college, and it was unhittable, and then he got to the big leagues, and that is hittable.
Yep. Another thing that's helping college baseball in reality, it might be hurting arms, people, but college baseball is getting better because we're hurting arms. That's what people don't realize. Bats at the college level are now having to hit against mid to upper 90s on a regular basis. They're not going to the big leagues and they've never seen it before. The kid who went to, as we wrap this up, the kid who went to Stanford this year who came over was the Japanese Babe Ruth. Rintaro Sasaki. Thank you, Rintaro Sasaki. Another name I'm going to put on everybody's radar just to pay attention to this year for Stanford baseball. But where I was going with that was simple. The knock on the MPB, whether it's right or wrong, is people consider it 4A all of the time. Having the opportunity to come over here and face that level of velo, that level of stuff at 18 years old, presented an advantage to him, in my opinion, which is why we're seeing him not enter the MPB draft and come over here to the United States to play college baseball for Stanford. Literally
Does he
considered.
have to follow the same rules for getting drafted?
He is now a normal draft eligible player come 2027 for him after his junior year. There is no other rules for him. He is part of this pipeline now. Yep. Also gives him the advantage of being able to be drafted in the MLB at an earlier age. There is a lot of different advantages to it. Do not be surprised to start seeing more people come over from places like Japan, Chinese Taipei, Taiwan, China. I tell you what, when Bazana breaks out at the major league level, expect Australia to start having more and more guys come over here to play baseball. Again, really fun discussion for us because the baseball pipeline is as healthy, in my opinion, as it's ever been, high school to college baseball. But I think that counts as my final thought. Do you have a final thought?
Baseball's back, baby. We're in it.
I'm so excited.
I got nothing more than that. I'm just ready for spring training to start. I'm ready for all the actual 26-man guys to start playing in the games, right? I mean, it's going to be a couple of weeks before those guys truly get going. Actually, I do have one thought. If you're not in the middle of a contract negotiation or an extension or how are you not showing up today or whenever your pitchers and catchers report? Like, why would you not just show up on day one? How could you physically not want to be there? Like, I'm shocked that Juan Soto was not on the field day one today with the Mets.
That's a good point. I think that unless your excuse is more time with family, which is probably always the only fair excuse.
I mean, it's 100% Soto's, but Yeah.
Yeah, right. But it's the general. I get it. I don't know. The juices are flowing pretty thick for me and you, so it's crazy that anybody hasn't already been there to us more than likely, for what it's worth. With that being said, thank you so much for supporting us all off season so far. Was a lot of fun to start a baseball podcast smack dab in the middle of the off season. We are super excited for baseball to be back. We're going to be around. We're here to talk. Join us on some Twitter spaces that we've been starting to do. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Instagram. Interact with us. Tell us what you want to hear about. We're here to talk about fun, relevant things, and we hope you guys enjoy the podcast every single Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out with us. Me and Flax are here all baseball season. Past that, this is Baseball Unstitched. Have a great day. Peace!